Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're very proud to be able to present this webinar to those who have spent some time out of their day to join us. My name is Dan Marsh, and I lead up the ServiceNow practice at AC3. And I've had the pleasure of working here for the last 2.5 years. And AC3 is if you don't know us, we are a ServiceNow elite partner. And we operate right across the ServiceNow platform, not only delivering professional services for our customers, but also managed services. And today we will be talking through the journey that one of our customers, TAL, have gone through in the way of underpinning ServiceNow to really increase operational maturity, efficiency, and really evolve ways of working. I've got the pleasure of being joined by Stephen Alcock, who is the Head of Service Operations Management at TAL. And without further ado, we'll get into the webinar. So to kick things off, Stephen, maybe I might hand over to yourself to do a bit of an introduction around, who you are and I guess a bit of your background.
Excellent, thanks, Dan, and welcome everyone. Thanks for spending a bit of your Wednesday morning with us today and listen to me talk for half an hour or so. But yes, so myself, so I've been at TAL for just over 7.5 years now, and throughout that time, TAL's been on an incredible journey of growth more than anything else, and that's largely aligned over sort of the past 6 years or so with the ServiceNow journey as well. But in terms of the role, essentially the team and we ensure that our operational processes and environments are meeting the needs of the business, technology, and risk sort of now, and trying to future-proof that, going forwards in terms of, changing demands, requirements, etc. So a pretty full-on job. What we also do as a part of that, we're the custodians for your classic ITIL operational and transitional processes. And then the extra challenge of that is then aligning that with our continuous delivery function, making sure that we sort of have that sort of close-knit and engagement across the two areas. And then just because I'm not busy enough with that, we also look after, all of our operational budgets there as well. And then in summary, main reason why I'm here today, also the owner of the ServiceNow platform at TAL. Thanks, Dan.
Awesome. So I guess, TAL have been adopters of ServiceNow for some time now. And I guess just to set the scene for everybody on the call, it'd be really great to understand what were the drivers for adopting, ServiceNow in the first place. What challenges were you trying to overcome to really drive maturity in delivery?
Yeah, look, so 6 years or so ago, we, essentially made the brave decision, I think, at that time to step away from the incumbent tool and invest into ServiceNow. There was a lot of operational issues that were called out in the business case, and ultimately, we've been able to achieve each of those, which is to the credit of the original team who pulled that business case together, and the implementation team, and ongoing in terms of how we continue to evolve that. Within that time as well, we've then brought on also a major outsource partner within that, and they've become easily embedded within the tool and platform in terms of the service offerings that we provide out to our wider business. But in terms of some of the issues that we were focusing on, there were sort of six key ones, really. There was no real single source of truth in the fact that, we had a tool, but people often operated outside of that over emails or in spreadsheets, or you went to, your relevant SME. There was often a lot of lack of awareness in terms of what was going on under the hood. And so that was one of the key things: bring it in, make ourselves more efficient, and then we can report and all that as well. And just in terms of what are we providing back to the business. Secondly, that being said, we also just had generally just poor processes in terms of some of the forms that we had were a bit cumbersome. Some of the workflows weren't as efficient as they could have been. And so what we wanted to do there was sort of drive approvals now, whether that's via a particular application or email or portal access as well. So in terms of providing all those capabilities, we've really driven down, the process engagement and therefore, the service fulfillment back to the end user. And then thirdly, coming on to poor sort of service capabilities really as well, because we found in the past it was often very difficult to prioritize what we do and how we do it. And sort of not for the want of trying. Often individuals and teams were just inefficient and effective in terms of how they operated and how they engaged others, without this sort of enterprise-wide service management tool. And therefore, as a result of that, it sort of took increased time and cost to just provide the service back. And, you can sort of, if you put yourselves in their shoes, often you could see maybe almost a sense of frustration really there that often didn't come to the fore. And as a result of all that, it sort of impacted SLAs, but we really didn't have an easy way to report upon that. So whilst there may be a lot of rhetoric or indication of frustration, without being able to report on SLAs or etc., it was very difficult to bring that up. And ultimately been able to do that very quickly with dashboards, which will, and some of the other value that we've been able to achieve. Fourthly, then, it's often this sort of holy grail that we work towards, across all of our various functions, but self-service, it sort of really wasn't there in the past. The portal that we had, if you almost compare images from then to now, completely different ball game that we're looking at. And so, often from that, maybe that's a bit of how people operated back then, but there's been a huge drive obviously for self-service, and the platform's been able to provide that, out of the box with obviously some considerations for how TAL operate. And that's reduced items in terms of incidents and just overall engagement, substantially. Yeah. And then, the final point there, just to summarize that and then pass back to you, Dan, is in regards to silos. There was a real lack of integration across teams. It was very disjointed in terms of how we onboarded, how we offboarded individuals, and there's been a large shift change to use that, and the platform's been key to allowing us to reduce that substantially in terms of the time it takes to onboard people.
Yeah, I think what's been really awesome to see has been the initial business case was really around trying to evolve the IT experience and for your end users essentially, and really trying to mature operational delivery. But I think what's been amazing to see over the, post that, it's been really the mindset to deliver, an enterprise service management capability that services not only IT, but the wider business. I guess, what capabilities, do you think have really played a pivotal role in driving a level of maturity in your delivery? ITSM is obviously the foundation, but what has really driven a step change in operations?
Yeah, and that's IT operations, to answer it, very clearly and concisely to begin with, and the reason why is that that's really brought in a hell of a lot of data that we've had across all of our technology teams and also applications, and we've been able to bring that into the tool, and that's the insight that we've been able to achieve has been, I don't want to say immeasurable because I need to record it and have metrics against it, but in terms of just some of the being able to quickly at hand have some access to this information has been great. Because some of the things that we called out before we looked at sort of the IT operations management capability was similar to why we also went to ServiceNow as a platform, but we just had to look at reducing our operational overheads about how are we looking at things and are we looking at the right things at the right time, in terms of priority of alerts and business impact and issues, and it's really been able to drive a lot of that. And then, therefore, as a result, our service offerings and our relationship back to the business has been great as a result of investing in that platform. And that's, I'll maybe come on to that a bit later, but what we did invest in that area was the discovery, event and service mapping capability, and maybe come on to a bit more as to what that was a bit later on. But ultimately, the drive there was really to drive increased service reliability and availability, and to the point, as much as possible in terms of automatically detect and resolve issues. We're not fully there yet, I admit that, but in terms of the awareness that we've got to react quicker, it's definitely helped our availability stats in terms of ensuring that, obviously, which is what we all want, right? To ensure that businesses are operational as much as possible, and that certainly helped.
Yeah, I think having that strong foundation data set from a C&DB perspective really, it changes the game in terms of we've worked in operational delivery, right? So when things fall down, not having the right business context is, we all get grilled about that. So, and not being able to resolve, we want to try and reduce the mean time to resolve. But, what I took from that really is around, bringing a proactive delivery approach to operations, and trying to not wait for a caller to raise an issue or an incident and, just react. We're trying to, I guess, nip the issues in the butt initially. And I think, the event management evolution on the back of that C2B data set and the different monitoring tools, it just changes the mindset and the ways of working in your platform teams.
Definitely.
So I guess we've talked about ITOM, so I'm really keen to kind of maybe we'll tap into, I guess, discovery is key in getting the foundation data set, but bringing the business context into operations and delivery is, having that service lens of operations. What does that meant, I guess, in a little bit more detail,
Yeah, and that's before we invested in some of these other capabilities, such as IT operations management, we didn't really have a clear business context to how we operate in technology, about if we're going to do something, what does that mean to the business, and can we do it at the proposed time, and what's the impact of doing it, what business processes are operating, and or what's consuming that particular capability or CI at the time. And what has helped to drive a lot of that is that we've mapped over 200 services, and for a company of our size, that's largely all of our services that we provide back to the business. And that's been great in terms of providing that additional insight, so we can have this full application ecosystem. And before, obviously, there was a lot of knowledge about what was happening, but to have it all down so everyone can consume it and understand what's happening, it's really resulted in reduced incidents across the board. And what's always nice to see is that's gone hand in hand with an increased NPS score. So we're touching plus 70, and before then we were, well, I'll just say it wasn't that. Let's not go into what specifically, but we've come a hell of a long way in regards to NPS and our business satisfaction. And there's then some key themes, I guess, as to why, but our ability to ingest some of our discovery and monitoring systems has really embedded our event capability for us to be able to react, and then that aligns to clear sort of risk awareness and understanding around how we operate as an organization. And just anything that we're trying to do is just limit and ensure a continuity of service for the business and how they want to operate. And then there's then various other value add stuff around change management as one example, in terms of efficiencies and how we can streamline what we do and how we do it in terms of understanding that impact. And that's very clear in terms of how we've been able to drive that through. But often we as an organization, well, we as a team are often challenged by the business and wider technology stakeholders to go, okay, well, what have we got in our environment? And before we had some of the IT ops management capability, it was you go around at spreadsheets, you'd ask different people, and you go, okay, well, how many of these servers have we got? What's going on here? And now it's just anyone can go in and consume that, just extract the data, and reporting it. And so it's taken those conversations down to potentially, man hours to minutes, really. And that's often something I'm in many ways most proud of, in terms of just providing the data to individuals' fingertips. But at the same time, we are being challenged and held to account by different stakeholders, and many of you will, but internally at TAL, that would be our cybersecurity team to go, okay, well, what's going on here? Like, do you have everything? And can we track vulnerabilities against all that? So, maybe it's my personality, but I actually, really encourage auditors to come and audit and have a look at what we're doing. And they've done that with different tools such as Qualys and other things, and we've got a real high level, and our health score and health metrics on ITOM capability is really impressive as a result of all that hard work that we put in.
Yeah, I think you touch on a really key point there. One of the biggest challenges around C2B maturity and the like is building trust in the data, and then being able to leverage that data to support other types of reporting and insight across the environment. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, and we've been on that together to build a level of maturity and continually increment and integrate new capabilities to support enhancing that trust and really growing that trust over time. I guess, so the C&DB data set is one thing, but, line of business, engagement into the platform is also another. So what started off as IT capabilities now, really evolved to be, can ServiceNow do it? Because, the business have engaged and there's been new capabilities brought on board. How have you found that journey, engaging with the business and I guess, bringing them on the ServiceNow journey over time?
Yeah, look, it's definitely increased, over the past 6 years, a lot. Initially probably nowhere where we are now, and that's often just been through ongoing and active engagement and show back in a way to the business and various stakeholders to show in terms of look at what we've done, look at the control we've got, look at what we are going to work on in the near and maybe longer term objectives as well and timeframes, and that's really triggered some thoughts and really then some good conversations with the business to go, okay, well, I didn't know you could do that. Can we explore some of these other items? And a very recent and real example is then the legal service delivery. We're showcasing back to different exec teams and or exec members, sorry, and it then sort of just triggers it and go, well, how can you do that? How what's there? And it sort of really it drives the conversation in many ways. One of the key things that I try and do in my role now is just ensure that people are aware about how we operate, because it's such a powerful platform. So the challenges that I'm sure you have as well, Dan, is to how do you articulate that easily to go, but look at everything that's going on under the hood and the power of the capability of the platform that we've got here. So we've put a tremendous lot of effort and ongoing effort into that, and we have regular almost steer codes in a way just to drive and ensure that people understand what we're going, what's happening there. And some recent examples in terms of line of business, we can then report at the moment to say, here's your ecosystem for your particular group and area. These particular applications are running at a relative risk because of some end of life data that we've got due to the ITOM and discovery and different attributes and capability there, and that's been key because we're trying to then drive the conversation about whether that's investment or just a prioritization of doing the work at the right time to close these things off. And we've then across the business as well as technology, because I've got, again, it's not these type of things can't just be embedded within tech. You've got to open the door a little bit and to understand what's going on. So, we've got various dashboards around the business, and often, they're in the office by themselves, flashing away. So that's all quite sad at the moment. But, we've got almost created that like a bit of a water cooler moment by just having these dashboards up to then drive the conversation and go, why is that red? What can we do? How do we prioritize that? And that's a great tool, because that could take me, days and hours trying to give visibility, but people seeing that, it just goes, okay, well, what do we need to do? Who's involved? How can I help? And trying to drive that line of business focus and value add. Right?
Yeah, I'll never forget walking into your office, right, and seeing up on the on one of the screens, the service health dashboards, the kind of the green, amber, red on the business service alignment, and just the awareness that brings and the focus into key areas can't be understated. To really drive the right outcomes. You can do a lot of work, but are we focusing on the right things? And that type of awareness really supports operational delivery, but also, it just encourages collaboration as well, in between operational teams.
Yeah, completely agree.
So I guess, what do you envisage for the future of the platform? You've got a lot deployed,
yeah.
But, what do you see as, pivotal to kind of the next wave of evolution for ServiceNow at TAL?
Well, I think in many ways, ServiceNow will keep me busy by just the extra capability and offerings that they provide. So, what we are actively looking at is that, in many ways, the ITOM maturity. As I say, I mentioned the 3 areas that we have deployed, but we're looking at then the predictive AI ops and cloud insights. So, really trying to drive that auto remediation of issues. So, I don't want to be getting a call at 2 a.m. What do we need to do to fix these things and get the tool to do it for us, right? And so then, and there's a few different things that I'll touch on now, but they're all sort of interrelated in some form or other, which is in many ways the power of the platform, right? So then related to that, we want to bring Integration Hub, more formally in to look at these pre-built managed service offerings in a way that ServiceNow and the platform can provide us. And that's really going to drive, again, increased engagement and user experience by just having it is a seamless end-to-end capability within the platform, and the Integration Hub, from what I understand it to be, is going to provide that, and it's going to, again, provide a lot of that increase user satisfaction. And the more we can ingest, the more awareness that we as an operational team then get, and we can drive then other activities, and that could be then related to problems, getting to the root cause of some things, or just then investment in how we prioritize that. And it sounds like a big pipeline of work that we got, which it is. So, and then related to that, touched on user experience, but ITSM Pro is going to be key to that, because the whole shift change of working at home has really driven how end users and and everyone across the organization, how they want to engage with technology. Not everyone wants to pick the phone up anymore. Not everyone wants to use a portal. And applications like MS Teams have really come to the fore. So the challenge that we've got, okay, well, how do we align to that? And Integration Hub, ITSM Pro, and Virtual Agent will really allow us to meet their sort of changing needs in a way, in terms of that's how they want to engage with technology. So let's explore, let's get that out there, and increase their satisfaction as a result of that. So that's sort of newish capability that we're looking at, but based on what we've already got in the tool, in terms of the data from ITOM, and what we're going to be using that for is to drive our increasing maturity in SAM Pro, so Software Asset Management Pro. And we've had that in for a while, but we've myself has just prioritized, let's just get the ITOM maturity where it needs to be, because then the data is going to be there for SAM to consume from a license validation, and then we can get the reclamation task raised, and just ensure that TAL is not spending money where it doesn't need to. And again, it's always trying to part of our roles in many ways is to go through that and understand, well, what's the maturity and where's the data at, so how can we then consume that and other capabilities. So another thing that we're actively looking at with our architects is the IT business management capability, particularly application portfolio management, which will use a lot of the data from Discovery and ITOM that we've got in there already. So and that's key for us, because as an organizations, one of the I would assume it's a lot of organizations, one of their key objectives is consolidation. We don't need 6 applications that do the same thing, and the APM capability is going to really drive and give us that insight to go, well, we don't need for example 6 claim systems. What do we need to do to drive that? And it gives you the capability to track that and really drive those decisions.
Oh, nice one. I guess what do you see as your critical factors for driving success, in terms of where TAL have gotten to today? What has been the key drivers for achieving maturity in a lot of ways across the platform and in delivery?
Yeah, it's bit of a shift change. So what we've done to do that is, and I touched on it before to a point, but it's some of these simple things which you can just do really well, is just keep stakeholders engaged and informed on the platform and the strategy that we've got defined and how we want to operate to. And then almost more importantly, bringing it onto yourselves is to have that sort of partner that can, understand what you're trying to do and challenge your thinking to drive the right decisions and do the right thing for us as an organization in terms of where we're wanting to invest. So, having, thankfully, what you've been able to do for us is then, provide skill resources in all of these different capabilities that we've touched on. That's not something I want to do. I want a partner who can do that for me to, whatever that initiative is or project is we want to do. We want to drive that and just go, okay, well, this is the initiative we're looking at. Give me the right resource. Let's get it, spun up quickly and just operate. I just couldn't do that myself, and so that's how, in many ways, we've been able to achieve a lot and with that pipeline or those initiatives that we're wanting to look at, that's the only way we're going to be able to do that, is by, working with like yourselves to operate and get that in.
Yeah, it's one thing we really value is, being a strategic partner. We want to provide thought leadership as an organization, and also we don't want to be there just to say yes. I think that's the other thing. We need to challenge the status quo to drive the right level of improvement that we all want and need to kind of get the return on investment. There's so much insight, and I guess we've got a couple of questions that have come through from a Q&A perspective. So we've got one from Silvio Rashi, and it says, how does the governance structure example people and teams look like throughout the C&DB and common service data model maturity to map 200 services to create that solid base?
Look, so what we've done there in terms of the governance structure, in terms of how we've kept that current and honest, is what we've established some, I guess, data certification, engagement and governance to, every quarter we then go out to, owners or stakeholders for that particular service to then say, you tell me if this is still accurate. You tell me if all of these attributes are still correct. I don't have the time to do that, but so what we've used is the platform to drive that out and, send out these automated alerts, and then they go to a dedicated platform and portal to then update and review that. And that's been key to us because, I indicated a bit above, but, or before, sorry, but auditors are just chomping at the bit to find something that's wrong with the tool. And so, in many ways, we're trying to do our best to work that through and that proactive engagement. But in terms of an overall governance model, what we do is, we report on the health of our ITOM capability on a regular basis. Look at what's stale, what relationships aren't being refreshed, and overall, what's dropped off in the fact that what's not been updated. Now, is that because certain servers haven't been scanned or they've been switched off and nobody raised a change request? So that's part of the overall governance model that we've got in place, really to give me and the team confidence that the platform and the capability that we've got is accurate.
Nice one. We've got another one here around how have, over the 6 years of driving a level of maturity across the business, how have integrations contributed to really driving that platform experience?
It's really helped us to progress quite quickly in regards to that. So, we've working a lot with some of the new capability that ServiceNow has brought out in terms of service graph connectors in regards to SolarWinds and Dynatrace and SCCM. Sorry, just up the top of my head, I have to remember that. And so what that has done is really made it easier for us as an organization working with AC3 to look at that and go, okay, well, what alerts are out there and how can we embed those in? How can that mature or give us that extra insight into the data that we've got there? So in many ways, always trying to just reflect and just go, okay, well, what tools are out there in the organization and how can we bring that in? Because if I don't see that from an operational point of view, I know it's easy to say, but did it happen? That type of stuff. And so really trying to drive that, and then that will therefore drive the maturity of the tool.
Yeah, I think what's really critical around that is that ServiceNow are investing very heavily in strategic partnerships with platform providers and other SaaS solutions and the like, reducing the time to implement significantly along the way. So, these pre-built integrations, they increase speed to value, and return on investment. So I guess, as we kind of round out towards the back end of the webinar, what would be kind of 3 parting messages that you could share to, another organization that, maybe on the journey of maturity, they're not sure what's next, that would really help them mobilize and drive, I guess, similar results in terms of value from the ServiceNow platform?
Yeah, thanks. And I can just say, I think this relates to a question from Damien as well around key lessons. So I'll try and cover both off there as well. But in terms of, key points, and this first one isn't necessarily related to ITOM, but there's a definite correlation there, is, out of the box, my reflection is just keep it as simple as possible and alignment to out of the box. It makes your life easier in terms of how you operate to it, and it keeps, it makes the upgrades a lot easier as well in regards to, ongoing maintenance. And that's, in many ways, again, how I think of that is then, whilst we could tweak and configure and make changes, but ultimately then it puts the onus back on the platform to provide the capability and the value that we want to achieve. And I've seen that there's been a lot of enhancements that have come on, and Service Graph connectors have been some recent ones, but also the workspaces, which I haven't touched on either. So that's keeping it out of the box, and then you can consume some of these capabilities is key. And that's one of the ones for me. If you're early on in your ITOM engagement or consideration, keep the scope small to begin with. Get some real focused, targeted value add statements or initiatives, and go for those first. Reflection for me was that we didn't do that, right? So that was something we went too big too soon. So I do recommend just starting with initial targeted scope, get that value, and then progress further. It didn't stop us from what we wanted to do, but in many ways we just had so much data just trying to consume it, and so that's fine. But maybe a bit of a reflection for people to consider. And in many ways, I touched on it before, but everything's part of a bigger ecosystem, right? And it's sort of going, okay, well, if we're going to do ITOM, CNDB, what does that mean for change management? What does it mean for incident management? What does it mean for problem? I'm really trying to drive that and understanding to go, okay, when you're not just turning something on, how can we embed this on other forms and capabilities that we've maybe already got in use, and how does that connect to the business? How does that connect business and technology a little bit closer as a result of that? So hopefully that's answered Damien's question as well in regards to some points there. But
nice one. No, great responses, and I think really good lessons as well. You're sharing valuable insight as to what worked well, what didn't work well, and what has really contributed to essentially achieving success, and I guess measurable results overall from the use of ServiceNow. So Stephen, I just want to say a massive thank you for sparing the time to engage today and actually share these insights. We love partnering with you and the wider TAL team. We value everything that we're about, because we feel like we're an extension of the team, and we're really happy to be part of the journey that we've been on, but also looking forward into the future as well. So thank you so much, Ben.
Oh, thanks everyone.
Awesome. And thank you everybody for joining us today. And if you want to get in contact, the details are on the screen. If you'd like to ask any questions of either myself or Stephen, we're happy to respond. And yeah, hope you have a sensational day. We'll chat to you guys soon.
Yeah, take it.